It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back for another episode of Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today we wanted to talk about something that I think will be really fun. We want to talk about topics and things in the health and fitness realm that we've actually changed our minds about. Just like things that we used to believe or things that we used to actually do ourselves that maybe we don't anymore, or quite the opposite, things that we used to demonize that we're like, oh, that's actually really good or not as bad as we thought. I feel like we have kind of a long list. This is pretty random. Where do we start? I would say okay, let's go back circa 2015. That was my If It Fits Your Macros phase that I think everyone knows me for. I have evolved, okay? I feel like I've evolved as a health and fitness coach. I was very much, and that's okay because we all start somewhere, but I was very much just a macros coach. I have a history in bodybuilding, so I think, I could talk about training style too, but in terms of if it fits your macros, if you don't know what that is or what that means, essentially macros, carbs, fat, and protein, this concept of if it fits your macros was that basically you have this nutrition goal, right? That's like individual to you in terms of a daily carb, fat, and protein goal. And as long as whatever you wanted to eat fit into your day, right, in terms of your calorie allotment and your macro allotment, you were fine, right? You would be good. You would make the progress you want to make. While calories in, calories out, that's like a whole other episode. So while I still agree to some regard with calories in, calories out with a lot of caveats and context, it's so important to fuel your body and eat healthy food sources. And Jess, I feel like you have a different progression through this process, but I was like, yeah, I'm eating this for dinner and I had ice cream every night this week. I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. And then I wasn't so healthy and I was like, oh, maybe I should actually eat real food.
It's such a physique thing. I think that's a good thing to separate, is that physique wise, you certainly can see physique progress, and you see a lot of bodybuilders with very unhealthy internal systems who end up crashing or end up having other diseases and issues later. So physique wise, you absolutely can. You're probably going to be really hungry while you do it. You're going to be hungry. You're not getting enough fiber and protein, you're not getting enough fiber and micronutrients. But health wise, there's going to be consequences in the long run too. Jill, back in the day when she was bodybuilding, I was into fitness, and I think I got into my journey in a different way. And I was I'll put this in air quotes, guys, but I was in this clean eating phase of my life where I was polar opposites. And I was eating only fruits, vegetables, proteins, very limited, very restricted, which was also not healthy, right? There's different ways that wasn't healthy necessarily. But Jill was known as the person. So we knew each other growing up. Yeah. But then on social media, I was following her through her bodybuilding days because I was into working out at the same time. And she had done some sort of post about Oreos, or a blog or something about you could eat Oreos all day as long as your macros are the same, blah, blah, blah. And Lane Norton ended up sharing her thing, and they had he made it, he blew this thing up, and Jill was the Oreos girl in the fitness space. And he validated what she was saying from a science standpoint of physique change, it doesn't matter. But again, now we both have met somewhere in the middle in our beliefs that okay, physique change is possible. It's absolutely not optimal. Just because you can change your physique doesn't mean it's healthiest. And I've loosened up in the fact that, okay, I don't have to eat perfectly clean. It's okay. If I am within my parameters with calories and still eating a lot of micronutrients, I can actually maintain and sustain my physique without being super restrictive. And it's pretty cool because I can enjoy life more and not be obsessive about food when I'm going out to social occasions. So I think we've kind of met in the middle on that stance.
Yeah. And I think too, it's with everything that there's a threshold or there's a limit. Do you see physique change with calories in, calories out? Sure, like depending on where you're at metabolically. But I do think there's still a threshold to that. And I'm not saying like that we're defying the laws of thermodynamics, but if you're not getting enough fiber, or your cortisol is really high because your calories are so low, but you're meeting your macros, but you have no fiber, no micronutrients, you feel awful. Honestly, compliance to a diet is going to be, that's a whole other factor, right? I mean, I was binge eating well through my bodybuilding days. And obviously looking back, nothing that I was doing was healthy. From a workout standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint, from the way that I viewed my body standpoint, but I did have health consequences. I mean, I was taking laxatives every day because I did not go to the bathroom, probably because I wasn't getting enough fiber and doing all of those things. And, in the moment, to me, I thought I'm bodybuilding, I'm lean, I'm air quotes in shape, right? So to me, I thought I was this picture of health. I was taking laxatives multiple times a day to try to go to the bathroom for years, literally. And my digestive system had a hard time recovering from that. Obviously, saying that, I know that's extremely unhealthy, but I think that the way that everyone defines health is so different. And I also think it's very distorted from social media, mostly because I think there are like standards or expectations that are unrealistic, like you said, about clean eating, or people that push carnivore or keto. Like, I'm glad that works for you, but it doesn't work for everybody. Like, that's okay. Which is why we talk about the basics and how we were able to meet in the middle, because we know that none of the other shit matters if you're not, getting sleep, managing your mental health, getting enough protein, eating enough fiber, getting micronutrients, eating all of the colors. So I think it's just a little bit of everything. But yeah, I mean, I love a good margarita. I love Taco Tuesday. Jess and I have like dying love for Thai food. We'll get it anywhere we go. And that's okay, because most of the time we're making really great choices. And that's obviously what we teach our clients too. But it is crazy. I mean, I think that was like November 2015 that the Oreo thing like just went crazy. I'm pretty sure I had like over 20 different kinds of Oreos in my cabinet, and it was like a whole thing.
Stop.
Yeah, like and now what's crazy, the person I am now, I won't even touch them. I'm so repulsed by what's in them. And I'm like, this isn't fun for me. It doesn't bring me joy anymore. It doesn't make me feel good. Nothing. Doesn't mean I won't
now
shitty food.
Our stance now is prioritize things that look like the plant or animal they came from. Lean towards mostly a whole foods diet, mostly, I don't want to say like a strict Mediterranean diet, but like things that actually came from the plant or animal tend to be more nutrient dense. They tend to keep you full longer. We do not restrict other things, but we make most of our diet up from those things that are way more nutrient dense, and you're just going to feel better.
And I think it's always so important in these conversations. Yes, in a perfect world, we would all eat Mediterranean style and eat every 2 or 3 hours and eat breakfast within 60 minutes and have this beautiful home cooked meal for every meal. Sometimes you end up in fast food drive-thrus, and like, that's life, right? And it's a balancing act for sure. But I think if you are prioritizing your health, you can do these things most of the time, right? Like, prep your meals ahead of time. And actually, I had a consultation call with a client, a woman yesterday who actually signed up to be a client, and she talked about how busy she was in her schedule. And I know she's going to thrive when she gets going and is signed on with us, because she said, my work schedule is really busy and I don't have a lot of extra time, so I have to meal prep. And I was like, wow, most of the time it's people saying, I don't have time to meal prep, I'm too busy. And she's like, my health is a priority. I have to do this or it will really screw up my week. She's like, I need those meals ready to go in my fridge for myself. And I was like, do you need me? I don't know if you need me. I love this for you. And it was just a really cool perspective shift. So
very cool.
That's why, like, most of the time, that's the goal. So, okay, let's keep on like nutrition things. And then God knows there's plenty of like related things.
So tracking and intuitive eating, can I talk about that one?
Yes.
Okay, so I started tracking my nutrients in the app MyPlate. It's similar to MyFitnessPal. Back in like 2010, 2011, I was competing for Miss Delaware, and I was like, I want to get ripped. I was strength training very well. I was doing a lot of the right stuff in terms of my workouts. but I listened to whatever the app told me. And I am only 5 feet tall. So it said, okay, a 5 foot tall woman who's whatever, you need to eat 1,200 calories a day. So I followed it to a T. I just went off of this app. I knew nothing about metabolic adaptation or that someday my body would get used to eating that little. And I lost a lot of weight. So I based my mental health and my like perception of progress just on the scale and just on getting smaller, not on, okay, am I feeling healthier? Am I enjoying life? Is this sustainable? So anyway, that was my first experience tracking. I then became a trainer. I learned that fueling your body is important. I started focusing on strength and performance. And magically, now that I'm nourishing myself, my body started sustaining itself. I gained 15 to 20 pounds within a few years, not being intentional about it. I wasn't weighing myself, but I gained muscle. And I look healthier now than I looked then, which is wild because I was way lighter and way smaller. But because I had that experience and I was like, wow, it's so freeing not having to worry about that, I kind of swung on the pendulum in the opposite direction where I started to coach. Like I was the count colors, not calories person. I don't want my clients to count calories because I don't want them to become obsessive. And I've seen so many women who came from the bodybuilding space who then hired me as a trainer who had this dysfunctional relationship with counting their food. So I actually did the opposite where I said, okay, we're going to learn how to intuitive eat. We're going to focus on how many colors are on your plate. We're going to add proteins. We're going to focus on habits rather than tracking macros. So I would say that kind of came full circle when I started working with Jill. We were both getting our clients' results in two very different ways. Now that I work with people virtually, I need data. So some of my clients I do continue to work with on habit trackers. Maybe tracking everything is too tedious for whatever stage of life they're in. Something came up and there's an illness or whatever. But the majority of my clients, I start them with macro tracking. And it is not because I'm macros only or anything like that. It's because if I see data and I can just get them to focus on adding the good stuff and we're paying attention to adding protein while we add strength, I'm going to be able to get them there faster. And then my goal still to this day, all of my clients who I'll say graduate with us, we have a lot of clients who finish coaching and are not truly sustaining on their own. The clients who truly graduate, I make it my duty to practice intuitive eating, wean them away from tracking so that they're able to maintain for the rest of their life. So we use tracking as a tool, not as a forever obsession. And I think both of us have that approach. But yeah, I went very much away from tracking for a while. And now I'm back to it, but in a way healthier way. I'm not restricting my clients. I'm teaching them how to manipulate their calories back up to maintenance once they lose the weight. So they don't just have to live at whatever the low calorie amount is for the rest of their life. So again, it's in a way healthier, more balanced way.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, mine, I've always been like macro based. And I think it's evolved obviously over time, but I just value it in a much different way now than I did back in the day. It was very much calories in, calories out, check your shit, whatever. Now it's, there's so many other benefits to tracking macros. And I think that, a lot of the women that we work with that have metabolism concerns and all of these other issues, they typically have a dieting history of Optavia and Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and Noom and E2M or whatever these very generic programs are that have them restricting calories and more specifically carbs. I don't know, like I'm sure, Jess, you see this pattern, but the majority of the women that I work directly with, the first hurdle that we have to go through is they're like, where do I get carbs? How do I eat more carbs? They like literally don't know how. I'm like a bagel, more rice, quinoa, like anything, right? And it's that mental shift. So there's so much value in that awareness. The other side of that is people say, I eat pretty healthy and I have them track for a week. I'm like, cool, let's get like a baseline. And they're like, I'm embarrassed. And I'm like, that's okay. That's exactly why we do this, right? Is the awareness that comes with it. And, I've used this explanation before that. And this isn't just because I'm a coach. This is because I've done this with my own nutrition. I can look at a piece of salmon and estimate if it's 4 or 6 ounces. I can look at a slice of chicken breast with barbecue and say, okay, this is about this many grams of protein. I can look at a salad and say, okay, there's avocado, there's this, right? So there's probably fat heavy. There's so much power in that. And you cannot eat intuitively. This is why I hate the internet. You cannot eat intuitively if you don't have anything to go off of. The intuition just doesn't come to you. You have to have tracked and had some awareness and some data at some point in your life. So I truly think that if you're like, I just want to be healthy and live life, I don't want to change my physique, great. Don't count your calories, truly. Like, don't. Eat fiber, eat the rainbow, get some protein at each meal, live your life, right? But if you are like, I want to see physique change, which I don't know a single woman that has come to us and just said, I just want to be healthy and strong, which I love that for you. If you do, please come to us. But if
my favorite clients, there's been like 2 of them in 5 years.
and let's be real, like, they still do want to see more muscle. They still want to do things. And we have to make sure you're not under eating or overeating. And that's why that data is so important. But I 100% like, the phases of our program are typically some type of metabolism work in the beginning, unless it's not needed. Fat loss, right? We're periodizing your nutrition and your programming. The back end should be some type of integration into your lifestyle. What does maintaining actually look like for this person? Because that's very different for everybody. And I have clients that leave and they're like, can I still track a little bit? I'm like, sure, if that feels good for you, right? Like, there's no rules here. For me, I didn't track for the last, I don't know, 4 years, maybe. I didn't track a single thing. My MyFitnessPal was empty. But back in like end of September, I actually went through a reverse. Now I'm in a deficit. The first time I've actually done this, and it's I needed that structure back in my life. And that's really cool too. With that is you can bring it back whenever you want, and you know exactly what to do with it. So,
and a lot of times it's just like bringing awareness, because we are so skewed in our perception of reality. And it's not just like our clients. I always think I'm eating more protein than I actually am. Or a lot of times we'll have women who are like, well, I eat really low calorie. And then it's fun to be able to show them that, like, okay, you've been restricting Monday through Fridays, and then you go off the rails on Saturdays and Sundays. So your average is actually way higher than you thought it was. Yeah. What if we increase your calories, give yourself more food during the week, and watch these binge eating episodes go down? It's crazy. Or like showing them that, hey, the day you only ate 1,100 calories, look how little nutrients you got in. Whereas the day we were at 1,800, you got plenty of healthy protein. You added more beans and avocados and nuts and healthy fats that are going to help your menstrual cycle and like your brain health, all of this stuff. When there's this sense of balance, whereas when you're restricting, oftentimes you're lacking nutrients, and you end up kind of backsliding on every other week or every weekend or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. And, and it kind of ties into that in terms of like health. And I think this is also like segue into another part of this is just health outside of nutrition and dieting and exercise. That was also like me when I was bodybuilding. To me, I was like, I'm lean. I'm, air quotes, in shape, right? I'm a smaller number on the scale. And I was eating protein and tracking my food. So to me, that was a picture of health. But I was struggling with binge eating severely. My body image was severely distorted. I judged myself. I judged other people. I spent 2 to 3 hours a day in the gym. I would avoid vacations and social outings because I was like, oh, I don't know what food's there. So toxic. Like, I was not living my life at all. I very specifically remember a Phillies game I took my kid to when he was about 2 or 3. And I was mortified, and I made us leave early because I was hungry and I was so tempted to eat a hot dog. And I was like, if I open these floodgates, it's going to be game over. I got to get out of here. And we left. And I was like, looking back, I'm like, for God's sakes, like, eat the freaking hot dog, or
enjoy life. Yeah.
Or like if I was in a more balanced place, I wouldn't have felt that way around a hot dog, So just things like that. And then like sleep. I was a sleep when you're dead person. Just very stressed, go, go, go. I had that toxic type A personality that I know so many women struggle with. Health is so much more than exercise. And I think it's widely overlooked, and why, honestly, so many women have hormonal concerns and feel awful day to day. Because I'm like, when's the last time you took a nap or drew a picture or felt the grass outside, So I think it's so much deeper than that.
For me, with the physical to mental health piece, I think that my perspective change is from the sustainability aspect of it. So when I was 18, 19, 20, all the way to probably 23 before I started being like, oh, okay, this is not sustainable. I mean, I still would say I was pretty healthy. I remember times when I like could see my abs all the time that my mom was like, you're getting a little skinny, Jess. But in my head, I was like, nope, I feel great. I feel my best. And like, I really did. I was eating very nutrient dense foods. Now I was eating very low calorie, but I was eating nutrient dense foods. I was exercising 6 days a week. Now, what I didn't know, because I'm in my early 20s, was this is not sustainable when you someday have a real life job, when you someday have kids, when someday you get an injury, when you're old and you hurt yourself doing something. Like what you do to your metabolism in that type of training. So I was maintaining fitness. I felt good physically, I felt good mentally, but I had to keep going if I wanted to keep it off because my body had become adapted to it. So I was eating 1,200 calories a day. If I went on vacation, I was like, oh, I feel so bloated. I gained weight. Yep. I was training 6 days a week. So if I took, and I was doing very high intensity, we'll get to that, the training style. I was doing high intensity type training. So then when I took a break from high intensity type training, my body was like, oh, thank goodness we needed a break and let's store energy. So I would put on weight and I would go on these up and down cycles. When I started to prioritize fueling my body, so I adapted my body to higher calories where I could actually maintain. And when I started focusing on muscle mass and strength over how many calories I'm burning, my body maintains itself now. I can go on vacation. I could stop working out for an entire month and not worry at all about my physique because my muscle is acting as insurance for my metabolism. So I think that's very important, again, for young people, especially because people are like, nah, I feel great. I'm fit, whatever. And it's like, okay, but like, what are the metabolic adaptations coming from the way you're staying fit? Because I promise you, when you have kids someday and you have to take time off when you're postpartum, you're not going to want your metabolism at the place it's at right now, where you have to work out hard and you have to train every day and you have to eat low calorie to keep it off.
Yeah. And so many women say things like that about like, I used to be able to eat whatever I wanted. I used to be able to cut carbs and drop 10 pounds in a week. And I'm like, do you hear what you're saying? Like, that's not healthy. It's not normal. We shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to drop 10 pounds in a week, nor is that healthy in and of itself. But yeah, like the mental component. And honestly, too, like having your metabolism in a healthy place is so cool for like the freedom with the food, right? And like detaching from the scale and relationship with food and all those things. But also like it just carries over into other areas of your life that I think people like overlook, or maybe you just don't know it until you actually experience it. But I used to spend like any social event I went to or any barbecue or any birthday party, I felt so much shame internally because when I went there, I immediately was like, what's for dinner? What's everyone eating? There's snacks on the table, but nobody's touching them. And I would feel super self-conscious. Like, is somebody gonna, like, am I eating too much? Am I not eating enough? Are people judging what I'm eating? And I would take food and hide in the bathroom and eat it. Like I was out of control. And metabolically, I wasn't in a good place. Mentally, I wasn't in a good place. So I was binging for all different reasons, right? Physical, emotional, everything. And I think that the metabolic flexibility also comes with just feeling really good and the energy and all of that, but just like confident and strong. And like, you don't realize that there's an association with those things too, that I think help your mental health so much on top of, strength training and all of those things do that, I think, and just taking care of yourself. But in terms of like weight scale, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but just the way that women value themselves based on the number that they see on the scale. I can't say that I have changed, right? Because I absolutely was a number chaser. And now I don't care, but I get it, I guess, to an extent. So like, it's hard for me to say that I have I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I would value themselves that way, but I understand the feeling because I've been there too.
Yeah. I'd like to tell a story that I'm embarrassed about now, about the scale. So like during this time where I was my leanest, I'll say, not my fittest, because I think I'm pretty fit and strong now too, with a lot more mental flexibility. But I remember on Facebook somewhere, somebody had said something about like their daughters not being judged or something about being healthy at all sizes, basically. And I was like, well, that's not really true. Because at a certain point, you're not healthy anymore. So your physical representation is a representation of health. And I think it might have been one of the moms within the pageant system. And again, guys, I'm not like I didn't grow up being a pageant girl. I did it 1 year. So I don't know a lot about this world. And I came in like, well, I'm a fitness person. Like, let's actually be healthy. And a lot of these women I saw behind the scenes, horrible eating disorders and terrible relationships with their body and their self-esteem because people are literally judging you on stage. I didn't realize that. I'm coming in from a standpoint of I'm healthy. Like hopefully I win the swimsuit competition. And I know a mom, there was a mom kind of defending her daughter saying they shouldn't have this. This is trash. Like they shouldn't be judged on their size for health. And I said like, well, I responded to her and said, hey, I'm a trainer and like kind of agree to disagree. Not that it's healthy emotionally for women to feel like they're picking themselves apart, but like you can see by somebody's outward physique that if their choices are healthy or not. And I now eat my words on that.
Yeah.
Because and she kind of put me in my place, which I am appreciative of. She said something to me like, I hope you never have daughters to have to give them that mindset. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not judging your daughter for her weight. I'm saying like body composition wise, I hope that if I have daughters, they're strong and this and that. And I apologized to her and we had a whole conversation about it that I think was really healthy. I'm glad she put me in my place. But I think now I see women who are in all walks of life and all different body sizes and focusing on body composition, meaning adding muscle, is way more of a priority of mine than ever seeing that scale go down. And oftentimes as a side effect, we see inches go down. We see physical health improvements from that. And we see body fat loss over time. But weight loss and body fat loss are not the same thing. So I'm very careful with how I talk about that now that I know better.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point is the weight loss and fat loss. Obviously, we have a very different perspective now, but I very much just assumed they were the same. And, I think that's why, when lines get blurred, why women get so obsessed because they're like, I want to see the scale go down. But I'm like, it doesn't mean you're losing body fat. And I always use the example of like, if you're just running your life away and eating 1,000 calories and the scale is going down, you might be happy because it's going down, but like you're also sacrificing precious muscle tissue. And so often women lose weight. They might lose even 50 pounds. And then they get there and they're like, I still don't like the way I look. And I'm like, yeah, like we need some muscle on there, right? You're not going to look fit or toned or any of those things by just losing weight and making that your priority. And also your body fat percentage can even increase in those times, right? Like because you're just losing muscle and you're not actually losing body fat. Not to say that
which can be unhealthy internally. So even if you look like you're a smaller size, you may actually have worse health markers. Yeah. And I think that's really important is to actually focus on health. And usually what happens is we focus on actual healthy inputs. We focus on getting stronger. We focus on nourishing your body. The physique changes and a healthy physique comes as a side effect of that. Don't chase physique and hope health will follow because it will not. Chase health and your physique will change in an optimal way as a side effect.
Yeah. And I feel like that's truly like the premise of our whole program. And honestly, it's what I tell most women when they come in and start with us is like, hey, we're going to get your metabolism, your hormones, address all of these concerns that you have. And weight loss is going to be a side effect of all of that. But we need to build some muscle. We need to do all of these things. And it's so true because I think so many years, of my life, and I know so many other women, you chase the scale and think if I lose, well, not to mention their doctor, lose weight and you'll be healthier, lose weight and you won't be diabetic, lose weight. And that's not inherently wrong, but like just slashing 1,200 calories and cutting carbs because you're pre-diabetic is not the solution. And it's not a long-term fix either. So I agree that like the weight loss versus fat loss ties into that so much. Okay, so
you want to talk? Let's talk training for a little bit, and then we'll see how much time we have. Maybe we do a second episode. We have so many things here on our list of things we've changed our opinions on. Maybe we do a follow-up part 2 on this.
Tell us what you used to do.
Okay, so I was lucky in the way that I was introduced to working out because I followed bodybuilding.com's programs. They had free programs at the time. They had Body Space, which was like MySpace back in the day for working out. And I followed Jamie Eason's lifting program. So very much bodybuilding, physique type hypertrophy programs. Yes, she was amazing, right? So I followed her programs for probably like a year or two. I saw awesome results physically. I felt really good. I felt very strong. Then somebody introduced, or I heard about HIIT workouts, and I was like, oh my gosh, you can burn more fat while you build muscle. I'm going to start doing that. So there was this free YouTube channel, and now it's like a paid subscription. She's still, this lady that I followed still does this stuff. It was literally 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. I would do these like 12 to 18-minute HIIT workouts. So HIIT is high intensity interval training. I would bust my ass for that 45 seconds of work and then rest for 15 seconds. I am not against this type of training, but I saw really good results because my body wasn't adapted to it yet, not because there's magic in the type of programming. Okay. So I did this for a summer. I remember doing it for at least 3 months, and that was at my leanest, my smallest, right? While I was doing it, I was still eating very, very low calorie. So I lost a bunch of weight, and I thought, this is it. This is the magical program. And then I learned better because your body adapts to anything that you give it. Okay. So, like I mentioned earlier, if I did that over and over and over again forever, eventually now my body needs that to continue maintaining that level of intensity, which is not practical in life. Okay. So high intensity stuff is good for your heart health. It is absolutely a myth that you need to burn more calories, sweat more, keep your heart rate up to see better results. I always with my clients manipulate food and food intake to manipulate calories. We do not count calories burned. We do not try to get our heart rate up for the sake of burning calories or body fat. That is not how it works, okay? I spend all my time training to put on muscle. And then I manipulate my food to lose body fat, okay? The more muscle mass you have on your body, the faster your metabolism will be, the more calories you'll burn all the time, and it'll be so much easier to get there. So I got from point A to point B, and I had to put in a ton of work. You do not, and I'm not saying like work out less, like movement is healthy for you, right? But don't do high intensity stuff for the sake of thinking you're going to lose fat while you build muscle, because that's impossible. Like that is not a thing, okay?
Yeah, no, I was the same way. Not so much with just like HIIT. I mean, I definitely went through like an Orange Theory phase and boot camp things. I was also very lucky to how I was introduced to weight training. I went to an Anytime Fitness in Delaware and spent most of my time hopping onto cardio machines because that was what I knew. I decided this is stupid. I would just want to hire a trainer. I don't know what I'm doing. And maybe if somebody walks around with me, I'll be more comfortable. And I think I've told this story already on here, but, he made me squat for several weeks with just a pipe, like no weight. And I was like, this is such a waste of money. Why is he making me pay for this? And, I learned so much, and I learned proper squat form very early on. Like anytime I work out at a random gym, people are like, wow, your squat form is beautiful. I'm like, I know, I fucking practiced for a really long time. But I still didn't fully grasp. I wanted to build muscle and I wanted to look muscular, but I still didn't fully grasp progressive overload and the progression and the adaptations and stimulus of workouts. So I was doing all of the quote right things in the gym in terms of like, getting strong and all of that and increasing my weights. And I wanted to, I power lifted for a little bit. I was like, I want my squat really high, whatever. But I still didn't fully understand programming in and of itself. And I just threw random workouts together. I was very much like, oh, if this girl posts a workout on YouTube or on TikTok and it has a barbell row or whatever, I was like, well, this must be legit, right? I'm just going to follow this. But I had no structure, no rhyme or reason. And then I was so annoyed because I was like, why am I not seeing results? I work out 6 days a week. I live in the gym. I know what I'm doing. I know my form is good. Still, none of that mattered.
Because it's not strategic. Like you'll hear us go back to this a lot. We just talked about it with nutrition, but also with exercise. Your body is going to adapt to the stimulus that you give it. So you need to be very strategic. Muscle confusion does not work. You can't just change it up every day. You need to be strategic. Do the same thing consistently for 3 to 6 weeks. Get stronger within those things. Then change up your program for the next 3 to 6 weeks and you'll get results because it's something different, but you're being strategic with progressively overloading it. I kind of did the same thing, and I would always do I would superset everything because I thought like, okay, well, my heart rate's higher, so I must be burning more calories.
Burpee or squat jump for super
in between. Yes, same. And it's like I missed out on so much valuable time when I was young and hormonally optimal to build muscle because I was doing these stupid things. So here's a test for you guys. Like if you are like, I don't know, I like keeping my heart rate up, whatever. Go ahead and try to do 3 sets of heavy back squats or pick a move, right? do 3 sets of it and just take a 90-second rest in between each set and see how much heavier you can lift than if you did the same exercise but supersetted it with burpees or high knees or jumping jacks or whatever else bullshit that they're having you do in Orange Theory. Go ahead and do that and look at how much lighter you have to lift because you're just gassed and your energy systems are going towards that cardio thing versus going towards building muscle in an efficient way. Again, even if you're like, well, I don't care about building muscle, I just want to get lean, adding muscle is the easiest way to sustain being lean and healthy.
Yes. And, you might see your watch say you only burn 200 calories in your lift versus the 5 or 6 you burned at your F45 class. Not relevant to the progress. And
also those trackers are wrong. Like if they're telling you how much you burn, like they don't know how much your body is going to adapt to it. So if the first time they're estimating it based on your weight and height and age or whatever, like great. You do that 3 times a week for the next 2 months, your body's now adapted to it and becoming more efficient at it. You're burning way less calories per session. Calories burned during your workout is irrelevant. That part is not, that doesn't matter to us.
And I'm not saying there's not qualified people that attend Orange Theory classes or of the like, but I don't know anyone that has gone to Orange Theory or a similar class for 1 to 2 years and comes out looking incredible that in a physique that somebody wants to. Like they often are like, why am I not changing? And it's like Jess said, it was the same thing when I started lifting. Sure, I got results initially because it was new and it was great and it was fun, but I wasted those newbie gains not knowing what I was doing, which is so annoying. But that stimulus, you might see initial progress because it's new, but it's just not going to be long-term solution. But I was very much the supersetting everything gal. Get heart rate. I needed to be breathing heavy. I wanted to be sweaty when I left the gym or I didn't do enough. I would do sprints after every workout. It was just so ridiculous. I'm so annoying, honestly.
I think that leads us into like, oh, actually, we'll talk about maybe the type of workouts. Like you did more bodybuilding. You still do. So for our clients, we program workouts for all of our clients. We do progressive overload and periodization over the course of 6 months or a year. Both of us still train kind of different from each other in terms of the way that we program. And neither is wrong. But I think
we progress and we go through those too.
Yes. So my big shift in that has been even once I got away from doing the higher intensity stuff and focusing more on muscle building, I was always doing more like isolating muscle groups and saying like, okay, I'm going to hit my quads, then I'm going to hit my hamstrings, then I'm going to hit my glutes. And I was training for a progressive overload of a muscle as opposed to training for function and range of motion. I started doing I think I did MAPS, the Mind Pump guys. They have some programs for trainers to learn to assess people and assess joints and range of motion. I did that program and I realized like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize my hips were so tight. So I started training for my own mobility. And then I was like, you know what? I need to make it a goal of mine to get my squat really good and my deadlift really good. So I started training, I think I kind of started training mobility and powerlifting type moves at the same time. And I realized like, whoa, if I can improve function and range of motion, suddenly I'm getting better results because I'm spending more time under tension in each move. So instead of doing a squat to 90 degrees, if I'm getting a full deep range of motion, my muscles are actually working harder in that time that I'm in the gym. And then there's the side effect that now I'm more comfortable. I'm not as achy when I go to pick up my kids or reach overhead and grab something because I'm training my body for that. So, so training big compound lifts is one just for the sake of time. If I hit those big ones, I don't have to spend as much time in the gym, which is convenient for me as a mom, as when I used to break down every little muscle group. Because if I do a deadlift, I'm now hitting my back and my glutes and my hamstrings all in one. So I train that way. I tend to start with more big compound lifts. But I'm very much focused on progressively overloading with range, not just with adding a rep and adding weight. I'm also adding depth and quality to every single rep.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is so important. And I was the person, this is like another thing that I've changed my view on. I did not warm up. I did not stretch. I was like, I'm here to work out. I don't have time for this shit. And for years, I did that. I did not do any type of mobility, nothing. And it does make it's so crazy to think back to like the way that my body moved then versus now. I also do yoga and things now. So obviously there's just like some other added things in there for flexibility and mobility. But yeah, that was another one that I just was like, no, I'm good. I don't need that. I don't see the value in it. But it's because I was just chasing physique, obviously. And that wasn't important to me. So that was another big thing. And then the last thing in terms of like working out, I think that we have on our list is cardio for fat loss. I don't feel like we have to go too far into this because God knows that'll be a whole other episode. But yeah, don't don't do cardio for fat loss. But I mean, I
do it for heart health. If you enjoy it, do it for heart health. But if you do it every single day, like your body is going to need to continue doing it to keep the weight off. Do not try to burn more calories or do cardio for fat loss, period.
Yeah. And that was very much something I did. Now, that's not to say we do not use that ever as a tool with our clients, but it's like last resort or option. And it's usually the only time we usually add it for clients is to if they're like they have a step goal and it's just easier for them to do like, you know, a 20-minute cardio like walking session on the treadmill to hit their step goal, to have like that structured scheduled time versus just hitting it throughout the day. But we really don't use cardio for fat loss.
And that doesn't mean we don't also get our clients cardio better. So the way that we are helping people's heart health while also lifting, which lifting is great for heart health too, is by periodizing our training phases. So if I have somebody doing very heavy, low rep ranges with long rests for 6 to 8 weeks, then maybe the next 6 to 8 weeks, I'm actually increasing their rep ranges and adding supersets. So they are now a little out of breath while they're lifting because it's a new stimulus. So we're still including cardio health. We are not telling them that they need to run or do the elliptical or cycle for hours to keep fit, if that makes sense. So we're hitting their cardio, their mobility, and their strength all within their workouts. And then sometimes I'll add 1 or 2 days for performance sake. As we get older, a lot of times we lose our explosive muscle tissue. So I'm not training. I'm never doing circuits for the sake of keeping your heart rate up. That is a waste of time. But I might have somebody train sprints, very short sprints, so that they keep those fast twitch muscle fibers if they play a sport. I'll have somebody train something for the sake of explosive movement so that they don't lose that function. We're not doing stuff just to keep your heart rate up.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, clients will do Tough Mudders and 5Ks and train for races. But when they do that, you know, it's a different season of life. We're not in a calorie deficit in a physique changing phase when they're doing those things. At least that's our goal.
They're doing it for performance or for that sport. Yeah. They are not, we do not expect that they will see much physique change if they're training in that way all the time.
Right. So yeah, like I said, we could do that one all day. What else do we have?
I think like kind of talking optimal versus sustainable. Okay. So like, you'll find anybody who is new as a trainer, and I know I was like this at the beginning, anybody who's new as a trainer is really excited to information dump. You see this from zealots who watch Netflix. I'm going to call my dad out. Netflix zealots who are like, I saw a documentary, so now I'm doing everything plant-based because they spray glyphosates on your stuff. And I'm like, whoa. Some of what you're saying I agree with. Some of what you're saying I disagree with. Yeah. But here's why I don't take that approach anymore. Most people do not need optimal because they can't sustain it. Right. 99% of people we talk to every single day, when we look at their food logs, we're like, oh my goodness. Okay, we just need to stop eating as much shit in packages that's processed and add some fruits and veggies. Like, let's start there. Let's start with adding protein before we ever talk about what's optimal, because it's very, very important that you're consistent in whatever avenue you choose and that you're able to sustain it for the rest of your life. If we can build up healthy habits, then we can add in another layer of this thing. But I am not giving my clients chapter 15 work when they haven't passed chapter 1 yet. So be cautious if people are telling you, you can't eat oatmeal and you should have this and you shouldn't have this. Be very cautious because those people probably have limited experience in working with real people on sustaining results. I've seen a lot of trainers who can get people results within 3 months and then it's crickets from those clients. They post their before and after picture and, well, what's that client doing 2 years from now? We don't know because they've burnt out and left that coach or trainer. So yeah, a balanced approach. Anybody with experience is going to take a realistic approach over scientifically, this is the most optimal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so true. And, like, I feel like our version of sustainable can evolve too, right? Like for me, and it can change with like what season of life that you're in. For me, I was 2022, like I was surviving. Like I was like lucky to eat in a day because I was just not taking care of myself. So for me, when I was getting back into the groove of things, it was, okay, I'm going to set alarms to make sure I'm eating throughout the day because I wasn't, right. I was just getting calories in where I could to get back on track. That's not the way that I like to eat, but it was just all I could like wrap my head around. And this is only 2 years ago, right? Like it was just a crazy season of life for me. And I knew better, but I was like, I've got to just do whatever I can do consistently. And I was working out, sporadically. It really depends. And, I used to train people this way in that I was like, okay, they want to see physique change and I know they really want to see fat loss. So we're going to work out 5 days a week and it's really best to get 10,000 steps and you need to drink a gallon of water a day. Like I was totally projecting my bodybuilding tendencies on people. And it's not Gen Pop. That's not what people like a mom that works full time and has kids in sports can do, right? Like it's just not feasible. So most of the time, like I choose to be gluten-free forever. I eat mostly dairy-free. I don't eat many processed like Oreos, Doritos, things that I used to really enjoy. I just don't do it. We had a girls' weekend in Tahoe, and we still like. You should see our choices. People would be like, "God, you guys are so boring for like what you indulge in." But we don't go get Swedish fish and all of these things because we just choose not to, right? And like that's just
because we feel better, but that has become our new norm and our sustainable. So don't compare your own sustainable to somebody else's. And also be open-minded to growth because that might evolve for you. You may get to the point where you want to lead. You might want to elevate each of those little healthy steps as you go. I think for another topic that kind of ties into this, my opinion on detoxes and protocols, like very strict. Okay. So obviously I'm like on this spectrum of this pendulum where I was super restrictive. Then I got to the point where I'm like, I'm so sick of all these people with their obsessive, stupid, fad diets because most people just need balance. Most people just need to add protein. Most people just need to add fruits and veggies. Now, with that said, there is a very small population of our clients that I will now walk through a very strict anti-inflammatory protocol. It can really clean up if you have some sort of gut overgrowth bacteria, like gut bacterial overgrowth, if you have mold toxicity, if you have an autoimmune issue, like my seasonal allergies and my eczema are horrible. I did an anti-inflammatory protocol and it is like my gut healed itself. I do not have toxic gas anymore. It was terrible. Okay. Like my gut was horrible. And I always thought I've just always had IBS. I went through one of these very strict protocols with no gluten, no dairy, no added sugar, no added processed oils and all this. My gut healed itself. And now I've reintroduced those things and I handle them fine. So I am not saying there's not a time and a place for those things because again, me and Jill both feel better not eating gluten and eating more whole foods. But I'm never going to bring somebody from zero to that if we don't have the basic foundations of health figured out first. Yeah. So anyway, my perspective has changed and I see a lot of value in those things. I also kind of see value from the mental health side. If somebody goes through one of those protocols, they come out usually on the other side of it like, this is wild. I actually feel like an apple is sweet again because my tastes have been desensitized. I've had to sit with these feelings of having cravings and just eat healthy stuff instead. And I realized, it's emotional eating. It's not that I was truly hungry. So I think there's a lot of work that you have to do through the discomfort of a protocol like that can be mentally life-changing. But again, I'm not telling every person, you should just do this and cut all this stuff out. It's like, no, that's for a specific thing if we want a specific outcome. Or I'm bringing somebody through an exercise like that once they've really mastered the basics already.
Or if, something comes up down the line. And I actually have a client right now that, she had a ton of hormonal concerns. And, through our conversation in starting with us, I was like, okay, we can start her here. One weekend, I was like, absolutely not. This is not where we need to be. We're pulling all of this immediately. And look, like that's to Jess's point that it's just not for everyone, and master the basics, but it absolutely has a time and a place. It's not. I do believe the statement that food is medicine for so many reasons. And again, it ties back to sustainable versus optimal. In a perfect world, would we all eat that way? Sure. Like we would all feel great, right? But even I don't want to eat like that all the time. And I indulge here and there. And, I think it essentially is a detox, right? Like I used to say, you don't need a detox. Your liver can do that, right? Like I used to make statements like that. Or I did detoxes or cleanses as like, weight loss methods, right? Which, let's be real, when people, the majority of the adult population talks about the word detox, they do not mean, addressing liver congestion and all of these internal health markers. They mean, I want to lose weight, right? And
I want to juice. Yeah, they don't do it in a way where they're
not for
nourishing their body. Yeah. They do it in a way of just eating really low calorie through some method that they're calling a detox. And it's time out.
Point. Yeah. So when we do
that's crash dieting
with clients, they're at 2,000 plus calories when we do these protocols. So that's an important thing to mention too. It's not low calorie. It's to heal, and your body needs food and calories and energy to do that. But yeah, detoxes, I would be like, that's stupid, which is funny because I went from doing cleanses and taking fucking laxatives every day to detoxes are stupid and you don't need them. You have a liver, you have kidneys, I would argue with people on the internet. And now I'm like, God, I'm like eating the largest slice of humble pie, but it's contextual and situational, right? It's not for every person. Not every person needs it. You can just really diet and be fine.
It's pumping your body with real whole foods and not artificial processed things. It is not a detox of, I'm trying to help somebody lose weight quick. It's like, we actually just want you feeling and functioning well. So we're using food as like nutrients. Like that's going to be the chemical that's going to heal your body.
I actually do that protocol twice a year for that reason. It's not, I need to lose a few pounds. It's, you know what? My body could use a little extra love. I'm going to just do a little protocol and go about my business. So yeah, my detox perception has definitely changed over time.
Okay. So something that you just said, I used to use fasting in a similar way. So we'll talk about that. Now I'm going to say the same thing you just said. I still will fast for like 48 hours, sometimes up to 72 hours, a couple times a year. Now my intentions behind it are very different. So when I had first learned about it, it was through like Dr. Fung and all the people who are spouting how great it is for autophagy and your cellular repair and all of this. There's now so much research that shares you can get the same benefits just from a caloric deficit. So just from not over consuming calories all the time, your cells will also heal. So you do not need to go on full fasts for your cells to heal. Now, with that said, I like it for the mental benefits. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's value to, I am I don't know if this is like politically correct. I'm a fat kid at heart in terms of my food. Okay. I am eating all the time. I love the flavors of food. I'm thinking about food when I'm not eating. Like I remember trips and memories based on my meals. Okay. Like this is a big part of my life. I do not err on the side of under eating and forgetting to eat. I err on the side of like, oh shoot, I should probably feed myself something healthy so I don't overindulge in the shitty stuff. So anyway, I like fasting for that reason. Who is it? Peter Attia is like one of the guys who was promoting fasting for a long time. He has changed his perspective on it because he's a longevity expert and his patients, he's a medical doctor, his patients, he's decided, you know what? All the autophagy benefits they might get from fasting, they are actually losing out in long-term health because they lose muscle mass when they are not fueling their bodies properly and eating enough protein. So he's actually retracted his own like backing of fasting, and he doesn't fast anymore. He just promotes people as they age to eat more and more protein and strength train. Mm-hmm. And then every now and then you can go into a caloric deficit and maintain your muscle mass better. So again, if you choose to fast, do it for the mental health benefits. A lot of religions have fasting as part of their practices because it helps you to connect with, okay, are these drives real or are they like some sort of like I'm idolizing food and I'm gluttonous, right? Like I'm not actually hungry. I don't actually need this. If it allows that sort of self-reflection for you, great, do it. You do not need it to lose weight. You do not need it to improve your health or to detox your body.
Yeah, and so many women use it as a weight loss tool, and there is not a single post on Facebook where somebody's asking about weight loss that fasting is not recommended as a tool. Fasting is not inherently fat burning. You're just creating a calorie deficit, right? With time restricted eating. You're just eating your calories in a smaller window and it's making you eat less, which congrats. If to some extent, if cutting yourself off at 8 p.m. helps you mentally hit your goals, great, do it, right? But don't do it for fat loss because it's not the purpose. And the way that I used fasting was way even unhealthier than that. When I was in this period of restricting calories and I would binge eat, I would say, okay, I probably ate 4,000 calories yesterday. I'll just skip eating today and it'll balance out. That was how I lived for probably 2 years straight.
So mentally unhealthy. It's so mentally unhealthy.
And a toxic relationship with food too. But yeah, that was horrendous.
And I have clients who utilize one fasted day a week where they'll eat one meal for dinner or whatever, 24-hour fast. I have 2 clients who were very obese, who have done really well implementing that. Again, as a means for a caloric deficit, not because they think there's some magic to it, but it works within their work schedules. I have a couple other people who, when they are in a caloric deficit, bump their breakfast back to 11 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. Again, if that works for you consistently, great. If that keeps you super hungry at night and you start binge eating because you were hungrier early in the day, then it's not the tool for you.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And same thing, like my perspective, it's similar to detox in that, I fasted the way that I did. And then it went to don't fast and all of these things ever. And now I'm kind of like neutral. I recognize the times that it's necessary and the times that it's beneficial and the cases and conditions it's beneficial for, but it is not a fat loss tool ever in any scenario. But I recognize the health benefits and the mental benefits that can come with it. But most of the time, I'm not recommending it to anyone.
Keto and low carb, I think, are kind of, sorry, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, no, I think keto low carb is pretty straightforward.
It aligns with this. So I kind of saw a keto diet and intermittent fasting or fasting as similar means to autophagy, because I had heard that you can get your body to run on ketones instead of glucose, and that's great for sustaining fat loss or whatever. My perspective has also changed on that. And I'll give you a specific example. So my dad is the one who is Mr. Fasting. He started looking into it because my grandfather had Parkinson's and he had heard it can help your brain repair itself. So for that purpose, wow, if we could do that and help our avoid Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or dementia, awesome. So he's trying to get his body into ketosis as long as he possibly can for what we have heard to be brain health. The first time I ever did a fast with him, he's like, okay, you got to build it up. After you do it for a few months, then you'll be able to switch over to ketosis faster, whatever. What usually takes him 4 or 5 days in a fast to get to in levels of ketones, I was able to get to in one day while also eating. So I ate very low carb, but I ate sardines, kale, avocados, olive oil, olives. I ate low calorie, low carb, and I was able to surpass him in ketones in 24 hours. Why is this so? It's because of my prioritization of muscle mass. The more muscle mass you have on your body, the more glucose disposal, that's a glucose processing tissue. Okay. So if you can, instead of worrying about fasting and ketosis, spend time building muscle, and then every now and then go into a healthy caloric deficit based on whatever your body's currently adapted to, you can achieve the same, if not better results.
And not to mention from a health perspective, and this is another thing that I even hate putting into the universe. There are times in a protocol, a very advanced functional health protocol, that keto is used, and I think it's appropriate. It's very limited. It's not for fat loss, right? It can be beneficial for certain things.
For seizures, for people with epilepsy, there's certain things that it absolutely can be helpful for health-wise. We are specifically talking about people using it to achieve weight loss.
Right. And
fat loss, yeah.
The reason that people use it is because it is takes no guesswork, really, right? You cut carbs, it's an easy thing. You just don't eat anything that has a carb in it, and you're creating a calorie deficit and you're losing weight. And it's so funny. Women are like, I lose weight so fast when I do keto. I'm like, yeah, because you're losing the water too, right? In those early stages. But when it comes to keto and low carb specifically, there's this thing that goes around that carbs are not like essential for life and survival, right? That you can technically survive without them. And that's fine. But like, I am not on this earth to just survive. I want to feel really, really good and have amazing energy and be a light to everyone around me. I can't be that if I am carbless and a bump on a freaking log, not to mention your hormones, all of those things, your metabolism, everything will be in a much better place if you just eat carbs.
Especially for women with our hormonal health and our menstrual cycle. Yeah. Fats are even more important for us as women, carbs are even more important for us as women. And our energy and fueling us and stuff. So if you look at your husband and you're like, well, he does great on keto, we're not exactly the same in terms of how we process that.
Yes. It's so true. And honestly, like, you remember, like, it used to be low fat. Fats are bad. Fats make you fat. I just had a conversation with a woman in her 50s yesterday. She was like, well, I avoided fats for a long time. And then they said fats aren't bad. And then it was carbs. And now I'm stuck. And I'm like, cool, eat all three. Like, you're good. So yeah, keto is a whole thing. But I mean, I do remember when I was, I don't even remember my carb intake. I was at 900 calories one day, and I've told the story so many times, but I was eating a pepper like an apple. And this was a very like pivotal moment, and why this story comes up, because I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, I am literally sacrificing my own health physically and everything in the name of a number on the scale. And I was honestly terrified. I had to go home from work because I couldn't think. I had so much brain fog. I could barely hold my eyes open. And I was eating like, it had to be somewhere around like 80 carbs a day. And so stupid. Like you said, I'm doing it for physique, for someone that I don't know to judge me on a stage and tell me how I stand against other people. I'm like, oh my God, so toxic. But so definitely not a fan. Please don't do keto, low carb for fat loss.
Okay, so I think
fun ones.
Yeah. Caffeine, me and Jill are both like go type A type people who always have a project and always are thinking about what's next. I'll put caffeine and like meditation hand in hand on this scale of things that I've changed my perspectives on. So I was like proud of how much caffeine I drank all the time because I could go like a monster and get so much done. I actually worked at a brewery that made their own energy drink and they served it on tap. So when I was bartending, I would take shots of energy drink during the day. My first job ever was at Bob Evans, and I would drink coffee when I was 16 years old. And I think that's where my addiction started. So anyway, I was like, sleep when you're dead, I can get more done. Sleep is a waste of my time. Yeah. Until my body crashed and I thought I had some sort of issue. I went to the doctor. I thought I had lupus. I thought maybe I have Lyme disease. My joints were aching. I hurt. Like it was really weird and my body didn't feel good. And I read the book, Sleep Smarter by Sean something. I forget his last name, Sleep Smarter. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it because he had like reversed a degenerative disease through improving his sleep quality. So I cut out all caffeine. I think it was just for a couple months. And I was like, oh my gosh, my symptoms went away. This is wild. So if you think you thrive well on caffeine, if you think, it doesn't affect my sleep, I still feel good, it can catch up to you. Okay, on the other end of that scale, meditation, adding slow down parasympathetic nervous system type activities. If we are go all the time, it is a stressor. Our cortisol is going to spike. Our oxytocin, our ability to connect with other people is actually going to go down. There's a lot of hormonal consequences of being in this sympathetic fight or flight state all the time, even if we think we're being productive. So when I first tried yoga, I thought like, this is such a waste of time. I'm just sitting here. How stupid. I could be getting things done. You can actually train your brain to quiet. And it's really, really healthy for your nervous system and your hormones. So Brett taught me about meditation. He showed me like a guided meditation tape that's like, focus on your breath, focus on your feet, focus on your knees. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. You start to realize that you can actually train your brain to be still
Yeah.
There's a lot of science about what it does physically to change your brain and your neural connections, and it allows you to respond more logically and less emotionally in later stressful situations, not just in that moment. So finding some sort of practice to be still, prayer, deep breath, meditation, yoga, whatever that thing is for you, finding time to actually quiet down and be still and not be go, go, go is hugely beneficial, not just for your health and for your nervous system, but side effect wise for your physique also.
Mm-hmm. Now I was the same way. And, with yoga, I was like, that doesn't, I was in this like meathead mode. I was like, that doesn't do anything for me. And now I realize it's not the physical benefits that people are chasing from that. And I did not have any connection to that. And I was the same way. I would go to yoga. I'm like, this is so lame. But I was not letting my guard down at all. And, this is like a whole other topic, but if you struggle to be bored, it's usually because you are avoiding something emotionally.
It's a sign that you need it. You need boredom more than anybody if you can't do it.
Yeah. And I have changed so much. And when I was forced to, I stopped lifting for a couple of months and all I did was yoga and walk and listen to podcasts and read books. It was such a reflective time. I cried all the time. I was so miserable, but it was the reason for me personally, and this is not scientific. I think a lot of women are this way though. The reason that I was so go, go, go and always like, I would complain about being too busy, but then make myself busy. I'm distracting myself, right? Like if I have to sit and be bored and be quiet, that means I have to face whatever demon I'm dealing with or emotions or whatever. And it really allowed me to do that. And I honestly feel like a completely different person than I was 2 years ago. And it may not reflect externally, but I feel it internally. And I think that it's the way that stressors like are tolerated or your resilience to those things happening. If somebody cut me off in traffic, now we all know Jill can get sassy. That has not gone away. But if somebody would cut me off in traffic, it was immediate, like, what my days always go this way, that I can see how this day's going, right? Everything was so negative. And now, like, it's so funny. People don't quote cut me off in traffic because I'm just driving. We're all on the same road. We're all going somewhere. Like, I don't even see it that way anymore. Like, it's, if somebody needs to
just less reactive,
like whatever. Yeah. And it has just totally changed everything. And I very much like defined myself as this like angry person. And I was like, my dad has anger issues. Maybe I need anger management. I would literally like as a teenager punch holes in the wall. Like it was so ridiculous, but it was all this like pent up energy and stuff. And I never was taught how to use it. And I think many adults have lived that way of like, you got to work harder. You got to get grades. You got to go to work. You got to do all these things, And we're never taught to just be quiet and slow down. And I think, circling back to when we said health is so much more than just exercise and your nutrition, this is kind of what we mean about, taking care of your nervous system and your vagus nerve and vagus nerve stimulation. We'll do a whole episode on that for sure. But that's a huge component of your health. And that can be mental health, physical health, your gut health, like everything. So yeah, I'm a huge, huge proponent of those things. Last thing, right? Supplements, all
supplements, other stuff, external things that everybody's like, what's the thing I should take? There's not like a thing you should take, but my perspective has changed quite a bit. I used to buy every GNC product because I was like, ooh, fat loss, fat burner, CLAs, this and that. Again, those are, you might as well just snort cocaine because it's just getting your heart rate up. It's like, that is not a healthy way to burn calories, guys. Your body will adapt to it and you might get a heart attack. But going from taking all the supplements I could because I heard it would help my physique to being like, you just need food. Like, let's just eat more healthy. Like I went on the opposite end of the spectrum. And now both of us are functional certified, meaning like if somebody comes to us with a deep rooted health issue, we can kind of help them fix the root cause of it. There's a lot of supplements that can be very helpful in bridging that gap while working on behavior. So now I'm not like pro or anti-supplement. I still do not promote a specific supplement because I don't want women coming to me thinking that that's the solution, because usually the solution is their habits. But there are supplements that can be helpful along the way. So that's kind of, I land now right in the middle on that.
Yeah, and I'm the same. I mean, I took all the fat burners, all the things. I wasted so much money on stupid supplements. One thing that I have not ever changed my mind on is protein as a supplement.
Yep.
100% think you should get protein from food if possible, but sometimes you need it to meet your goal, and it's supplementing a whole food diet. It's not replacing it. So if you're drinking a shake for every meal, just eat some food. So that's one thing I haven't changed on, but supplements in and of themselves, I think that they're not meant to replace anything, right? Like I take vitamin D and my vitamin D is low, but I still believe wholeheartedly that I just need more sunshine and I live in Michigan and that's the way that it is. But I know that and I'm intentional and it's still low. So I supplement it. And that's literally the point of it, right? Is I have those healthy habits in place. And same with anything else. I have hypothyroid and Hashimoto's, but I choose not to go the medication route. So I do take a supplement to support my thyroid, right? Will I need to take it forever? Maybe, but like, I'm okay with that. If that means I'm just, supporting my body in a more natural, healthy way. And not everyone has to think that way. Medication has a place, so I'll make that disclaimer. But yeah, I think it can fill gaps. I think it can speed up processes. But if you come to me and say, what supplement do you recommend for your cortisol? I'm going to ask you how many hours you sleep a night. I'm going to ask you how many hours you spend on your phone. I'm going to ask you what time you go to bed and what time you wake up, how much sunlight you get during the day. Are you exercising? What kind of exercise are you doing? And what are your calories at? Because none of those things matter less than a supplement. And you have
the supplement is the cherry on top. Yeah. And that's the real meat of fixing the issue.
Yeah. And
so in terms
waste of money too, if you're not doing other things anyway.
Stuff that I guess we can talk about this real quick because people always want to know, well, what supplements are you on? So supplements that we recommend to most people, because most people tend to be low on these things, are one, some sort of protein supplement again, as a supplement. If you can get most of your protein from whole food, we prefer that. But protein, some sort of fish oil, or omega-3 supplement, some sort of D supplement or D/K supplement, and then triple magnesium, some sort of magnesium supplement. Again, those are just things that most people tend to be low on. That's why we recommend those. Like anything else, anything else, I'm not really recommending without blood work to say like, oh shoot, we're really deficient on this.
Creatine's another one.
Creatine is another one. Yeah, I take creatine, and I kind of cycle creatine on and off, but I take creatine almost all year long. That is another one, just 5 grams a day for not just muscle health and strength, but for brain health. So that's another one.
I think that's really it though. That's like our core group, and then outside of that, it's very much based on labs, or if a woman is menopausal and she has symptoms, we're going to recommend supplements because they could be doing the right workout program and moving their body and getting good sleep and dieting, but it is a huge hormonal change. That's the point of supplements, right? Is to help during those times. So we recommend on a much more individual basis. There are definitely supplement lines that I prefer to get my products from because I trust them, and I used to be GNC. I don't even remember what the other one was, whatever that other big supplement store was. And I was like, ride or die for these people. I thought I was so cool going into these stores. I honestly won't really go in there. There's not many brands in there that I would recommend or trust at this phase of my life. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. It's just how I feel about supplements these days. And I think they just, most people are going in there for fat burners and crap anyway. So, I think that's kind of my stance on supplements too, is, I'm a huge fan if we're doing all the basics still. Melatonin specifically, I know we've talked about. What was your stance previously on melatonin?
Yeah, because I very much told people stop taking it. So my stance on it was not that you shouldn't take it. It's to be used as a tool for people who need to transition their sleep cycle. So for people who have jet lag and need to get their sleep cycle back in order. Brett used to work night shifts. So, hey, when you're transitioning back to day shift for that weekend, take it at a certain time to get your sleep cycle back to normal. Like anything that our body naturally produces, I am hesitant personally to take any of that stuff normally. And it's not because it's bad for you in itself, but eventually your body can start to downregulate its natural production, is still my opinion. I don't know if that's backed by science, but that's my opinion. That's why I stopped taking creatine for a couple months every year, because I'm like, well, I want to still be able to utilize it optimally, right? So that's kind of my opinion on melatonin. Now, I went through a big gut health protocol because I had an overgrowth, an H. pylori overgrowth, and some other like viral overgrowth in my gut. When I did that, my functional coach she wanted me to supplement with melatonin to promote gut health. Mm-hmm. I still don't know where I stand on it, but I'm like, okay, is the melatonin promoting my gut health because my sleep habits are really poor? So now because I'm getting better sleep, my gut is healing too, or the melatonin in itself actually can help repair your gut lining. So again, I am now not anti-melatonin, but I don't like to overutilize it. A lot of people will give it to their kids really young, but they're still staring at screens all night. And it's like, I still feel the same as I do with any other supplement, where I think you need to get your behaviors right first and then use it when necessary as a supplement.
I feel like we're probably so annoying to people because we're like, well, this is what we think, but disclaimer, and I'm the same way, in that I think it has a place and I use it. If my sleep schedule gets super wonky, West Coast to East Coast or whatever, I might use it for a night or two to get my schedule back on track. And then I stop. As soon as I get to sleep by 9:00, 2 nights in a row, I'm off of it. I don't need to fall asleep. And I do think that the disclaimer is that it's so overused. And honestly, I know people that are taking like 10 plus milligrams of freaking melatonin or taking prescription sleep aids, and they're like, well, I don't sleep well. Well, I'm like, well, you're at 1,200 calories and you're chronically stressed and you scroll on your phone all night. Like, if I put an eye mask on and turn on some freaking ocean sounds, that I fall asleep faster than any melatonin is going to make me fall asleep. But I think it's same thing. Melatonin is a hormone, and if cortisol is dysregulated, melatonin probably is too. That's like a whole other like cascade of events. But I think that it's that disclaimer of like, it has a place, you can use it. It just shouldn't be relied on forever as a sleep aid, because you should be able to just go to sleep and wake up like a human.
It just hurts my heart when I see so many moms post about it, not because it can't be a tool, but if you are concerned that you're not able to fall asleep at night, first try interventions like getting your kids out in sunshine earlier in the day.
Yeah.
The UV rays in your eyes actually help start that circadian rhythm, and they help your melatonin production later at night. Get on a regular routine where you're going to bed at the same time every single night, because that can help with your melatonin production. There's a lot of things we can do to help that system and those hormones be produced naturally. I recommend that first so that our kids don't then down regulate and have these wonky symptoms that we have now as adults.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is. It's the same thing for kids and for adults. You just have to make sure you're doing the basics. And I check myself. Like, I find myself I'm watching reality TV at 10:30 at night while I'm scrolling freaking TikTok. And I'm like, for God's sakes, no wonder my sleep sucks. So I have to check myself too. And you just have to be mindful. And people are like, well, I don't know why I can't sleep. And I'm like, come on, let's be real.
I could give you a list. Let's talk about your nighttime routine, and then we'll pick one or two things and we'll work on those one or two things for a while before I ever suggest some sort of sleep aid.
Yeah. And it is. Sleep aids are dangerous territory to walk, because if you're jumping to it without correcting the behaviors, you're going to have to increase the dose, and then you're going prescription, and it's just down a path that's not beneficial. So that one is more so like more important than other supplements stepping in, because you do have to like increase your dose if your tolerance increases. So yeah, I think we're pretty similar on melatonin too. I definitely don't recommend it unless someone is like truly struggling. Or maybe they're transitioning, they want to come off of prescription medications, right? So maybe it's like an interim there. So I think we could probably talk about all of that stuff all day. So what do you think? Do we just touch on these last two things briefly? But I think they're going to be their own episode.
I think they're going to be their own. I think we haven't really changed our opinion on it. Yeah. I don't think we've changed our opinion on it. I think now we're just like, well, if you can't beat them, how are we going to help them? So I don't know.
Yeah. So last two would be mushrooms and would be weight loss injections. What do we do first? You want to do?
Let's end on weight loss injections since everybody's obsessed with them.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. So one of our unhinged episodes, I don't know if that one's come out yet, if you guys have heard it, but one of our unhinged episodes, I talk a lot about me going through depressive episodes and actually microdosing psilocybin instead of getting on SSRIs, and it literally eliminating my depression. So microdosing through a company that is doing it for research purposes medically. So you can go to like Johns Hopkins. There's different schools that are studying this stuff. If you struggle with severe anxiety or depression, you could do it through that. I do not recommend not consulting your doctor and just going and buying this stuff. But that's something that like I 1,000,000,000% can't even believe I'm saying that I have tried and done for health. Because I just saw this as some recreational drug that people use who are stupid and want to hallucinate. And it's like, oh my gosh, I did not know that there was actual mental health benefits. So that's something that personally has helped me like a ton. I can't say enough about it. And yeah, that's that. That's my opinion.
Mine was a pretty similar, as a kid, teenager, I saw kids doing mushrooms and acting crazy. And it was definitely for that like hallucination, just being goofy, like you said. So I was terrified of them, terrified. I was like, oh my God, no, like I don't ever want to be a part of that. Mind you, I drank alcohol and smoked weed and whatever, but mushrooms was like hard no for me. Like, I swear I drew the line. And it wasn't until the last couple of years, same thing. And for me, it was not as much of like mood as it is like ADHD focus type of thing. And yeah, so mine was a little bit different. And I don't want to say I don't take it as much as you. That sounds like ridiculous, but
I take it, I microdose on a specific schedule. So when I say microdose, it's like less than 0.2 grams per occasion. I do not feel different. I can fully function. It is as if somebody were on an SSRI, and I take it because it can make your brain more malleable. So I can actually change my behavior. I feel more focused the next day, like not just when I'm on it, but I'm sharing this to share, like I'm not doing some trip. Like it's like I'm taking the tiniest little amount that you wouldn't even perceive to physically change my brain. Yeah. But I take it every 4 days.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's again, why we said that could be a whole episode, because we could get into all of those things. But yeah, I think we're super similar in that, obviously, I know we talk about it a lot, but yeah, we've definitely come a long way in terms of that. And then weight loss injections, everyone's like favorite topic right now. Like Jess said, I don't think that stance has necessarily changed. Now, that's not to say I have not produced content on the internet that has thrown shade at injections. I fully own that. But
I stand by my shade. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying with the disclaimer that we're about to say. Like, I stand by everything I've said about it, but I also am in this business to help people. And if people are going to go get these injections, please let us help you in a healthier way.
Right. I've actually partnered with somebody locally who really sees the value in what we do. And he works in aesthetics, but he can give his patient these weight loss injections and drugs. And, I basically said, hey, let me help these patients get better results and keep them. Because if we're lifting weights and eating protein while we're on it and monitoring calorie intake and coming off of it, via a reverse diet and slowly getting calories back up and still lifting weights and focusing on muscle, they're not going to have these, so many women struggle with, losing the weight and they're like, I feel amazing. And they come off and they're like, oh my God, it all came right back. So that's one side of it is, there's a lot of information coming out that these are not going anywhere. They're only going to be more prevalent. And honestly, it just makes what we do 1,000 times more important. So our stance is let us help you if you're on them or you choose to utilize them. Because I can help you keep those results forever, right? And if you want to use that, that's your own personal health choice, right? I will never tell somebody to do them or not to do them. Unless, I had somebody consult with me yesterday. They said I'm on 1,000 calories. Should I just try Ozempic? And I'm like, no, that defeats the whole purpose. But let us help you because muscle is a huge factor. Now, I won't say I am not well versed fully on the major like risks or side effects that can come with them. Because one, I haven't encountered them personally. I mean, I've definitely read studies and such and seen people's personal experiences. This is my opinion, is that it is prescribed in an unhealthy way and at unhealthy doses, and it is not managed appropriately, which is why I was very selective in the doctor that I chose to back and support. And I'm sure he feels the same way about me, in that I trust him and I trust the way that he's dosing and giving these regimens to patients. And we have very similar viewpoints on health. And that is a critical component in these side effects coming from them.
And he is a medical doctor who's also testing body composition as they go. So he is paying attention to their muscle mass to fat mass ratio. A lot of people at like these cosmetic places or spas or whatever, aesthetic spas, are prescribing it, and they're not monitoring body composition and health markers. They're just saying, great, you're losing weight, it's working. And then what ends up happening are these metabolic adaptations that your metabolism slows down, you gain all the weight back after, you don't have the behavioral habits that go along with it. So I think it's really important to know that too. If you are looking to work with somebody, like they need an in-body scan. They need like whatever the most accurate, like it's pretty hard to measure very accurate body composition, but they need a very accurate in-body scan or something to test your muscle mass as you go, so that you're not losing that very valuable health tissue, which is your lean muscle and lean tissue.
And, the other problem in the space is people are promoting these injections and saying, yeah, we'll give you nutrition plan, right? Like I know a local facility that's like, yeah, we'll write you macros. I'm like, on what basis? What training do you have to be giving these out? And what they're doing is using some generic online calculator and spitting out these low calorie numbers to you. There's no rhyme or reason behind what they're doing. And I'm not speaking for everybody. Obviously I can't speak against every person that's prescribing these, but most of the ones that I know of are doing this very willy-nilly. Oh, we'll give you workouts. Oh, we'll give you a nutrition plan. No, there's
a lot that goes into a good trainer's programming for metabolic and muscle adaptation. Random workouts are not necessarily going to do it in terms of preserving that muscle mass when you're at such low calories.
And also the habit and behavior change that is so critical to, and why so many people go on these injections and come right back off and gain the weight. There was no behavior change. They just had this thing, their switch was shut off and they didn't think about food all the time and their appetite was reduced and they ate less. So they lost weight because they were in a calorie deficit, and then they went off. And guess what? Now you're hungry and you have to know how to manage that. So somebody can throw macros and generic workouts at you all day, but if there's no behavior change to go along with that while you're doing this, it's a waste.
You're not sustaining those results at all.
Never going to happen.
Or it's just the same as yo-yo dieting.
Yes, it's just a different version of it, right? You're just going about it a different way, and you have the injection that's supporting that. But at the end of the day, it's never going to be sustainable. So that is our stance. That's always been our stance. It'll always be our stance, unless something crazy comes out in research that tells us otherwise in terms of, health, efficacy, whatever. But that's our stance. And we are more than happy to support women through that, whether it's, I would rather collaborate with your physician and then prescribe this to you in a healthy way. And I do my thing, right? I'm not going to prescribe you the injections. I can't. But I'm happy to support the people that choose to go that route, as long as they are open to the behavior change and the things that come with maintaining those results that they're after. So I know this was a really long episode. We totally could have broken this up, but I was like, you know what? This is a vibe. People can listen to it over a couple of days if they want. So I think that's everything. Did we cover it all? I know we actually started this episode and we were like, oh, we have a few things. It'll be fine. Definitely did not see this coming, but I think that's it. Anything else you can think of?
No, I think that's good. I'm sure stuff will pop up in future episodes. We are always changing our minds. If you have somebody and they act like they know it all, then what are they doing? They're not growing.
You can all come back and say there was that one episode where you said, and we'll say, I know, own it.
Yeah, because we're always hoping to grow. We are hoping to become better. And I'm glad I have posts that I'm embarrassed about as a trainer 5 years ago, because if I didn't have that, that means I wouldn't be growing.
Well, and you know what? I think the difference, though, is I'm embarrassed, too, of some of the things that I did now, but I don't think I would be embarrassed about things that I post now, because we do our due diligence in the information that we share. And if the research changes, then that's not my fault. I was just a naive asshole when I was prescribing macros in the beginning, because I was like, my way or the highway and I'm the smartest person out here. But
the more we know, the more you know. If you guys come across experienced trainers or experienced nutrition coaches, they're never going to give you a cookie cutter answer. They're always going to say, well, it depends. And how's your body responding? Like, they're going to need more information before giving you good advice.
Yes. Okay. So I think that's it. We will wrap up. I know this was a long episode. Hopefully we weren't too boring and just rambling, but I think it's cool to hear. I know I appreciate when professionals in the space share their stance changing, because I respect it so much for people to be open to learning more and making those changes. So I think it's super cool. And that's why we're kind of excited to share this episode. So that is all that we have for this episode of Reality Check. And until next time, see you guys later.